Hello all, welcome to this third session of Docker. We in the last session we left on commands Docker PS and Docker PS-A. These were the last commands that we ran in our last session, and we are going to discuss about it. But before that, let's quickly understand what we covered in the last session. We understood what images are. Images were basically a set of instructions which are bundled, which are bundled in such a way which can be used to create containers. Then containers were the running instances of Docker images. Docker daemon was the background service which was running, which was continuously up and running, uh, listening to Docker client. Docker client was the CLI, our command line interface, which gave the commands that we needed to, that was supposed to be done to Docker daemon. And lastly, Docker store or hub was the registry of Docker images where we can find all the different variants of containers, plugins, and so on. So let's start with Docker PS. Well, Docker PS, what is Docker PS? Right now, we don't see any output because there is no container right now which is up and running. So what does that mean? That means that Docker PS is a command that shows you all containers that are currently running on your Docker engine right now. Whereas Docker PS, whereas Docker PS-A gives you all Docker containers which are active plus all the containers which exited as well. So for example, this is one example of Ubuntu which was created like 11 hours ago, and it got exited about an hour ago. So this was a container which was created 11 hours ago and then got exited 1 hour back. So that's the use of Docker PS and Docker PS dot dash A. Getting the history of entire the list of containers that we created, or the number of containers which is actually up and running right now, is what is shown by Docker PS and PS-A. Now moving on to next command, which is pull command. Docker pull image. Well, if you understood Docker run, then you would have realized that it works on three steps, right? Let's quickly go to this. Now, if when we discussed about Docker run, we understood that Docker runs works in three steps. First is find the image locally. If not found, then go to Docker Hub, pull the image, then after pulling the image, create a running instance of that image, which we call as container. Then execute the command that you want the container to execute. Okay, so this is the three steps. Step one, find locally, search it in Docker Hub, pull it back in Docker repository, create a container, execute the command in that container. That's how Docker run worked. Now pull can perform the first step, which is pulling the image from Docker Hub into your local repository. That is the work of Docker pull command. Now, for example, if I want to pull Jenkins, okay, so I'll directly go Docker pull Jenkins, and that's it. You see, it tried to pull, but it found in my repository, in my local repository itself, it found the Jenkins application. So it compared my application which I have in my local repository. If you do Docker images, I see that the image of Jenkins is already present in my local repository. That's the reason it tried to search. It found it in local environment. It compared it the with the Jenkins image which is present in Docker Hub, it found that the image was equal. I mean, the one which I have right now, there is no update or no upgrade done in this Jenkins image. So it said that okay, I have the latest Jenkins image and it came out. So let's move on to see how Docker Hub look like. Docker Hub. So this is Docker Hub. You go to Docker Hub. You'll see that my user is already logged in. So you might see few repositories of me. These are some repositories which this user has. But what I need to know is I need to know about Jenkins. For example, when I did Docker pull Jenkins, how can I be sure that the Jenkins pull command is this? Why can't can it can also be Docker pull Jenkins could be Jenkins or Docker pull Jenkins Jenkins maybe one or something anything. It could be anything. I'm not really sure that Jenkins Docker pull command is this. So what I'll go to Docker Hub. I'll search for Jenkins, and I see that Jenkins has returned this first command. This first output is of Jenkins. This is the Docker official image of Jenkins, and I see here Docker pull Jenkins is the command to pull Jenkins to our local repository, which we actually ran here and got the output. Also, if you go below a little below, you'll find a lot of instructions about Jenkins. It tells you what Jenkins is, and also it gives you many other instructions about how to use this image. The one that I have actually downloaded, how can I use it? So, it says, Docker run, then it will definitely cover this part in when we'll be covering the parameter dash p, which is of port. When we cover dash p parameter, we'll cover this section, how can we use Jenkins image. But for now, we quite basically understood what Docker uh, pull does, right? And as I said, Docker Hub is a registry service. This page, this environment, Docker Hub environment is a registry service. And now, what do you might ask, what do you mean by registry? Well, we will see it in further sessions. But for now, registry service on cloud. I mean, this is the registry service which is on cloud that allows you to download Docker images built by all other communities. We will also be uploading our own Docker built images to Docker Hub here by the end of the series of this Docker. Let's, okay, so now let's move on to another command which is Docker exec. Docker exec. Okay, now before understanding Docker access, we need to understand one very important mode, which is detached mode. Okay, we need to understand what is detached mode. So if we consider old example with Docker run, consider this Docker run it ubuntu bin bash. Okay, we ran this. We entered the container shell. We ran some XYZ commands, and then we exited. Okay, and then when I do Docker PS, I see that there is the container that we created here by Docker run is no more active. It is it is 26 seconds ago. The bin bash was the shell that we spinned up. We created, we ran some commands, we exited, and the container was killed. But what if I want to let this container run in backend? I mean, like if I want, if I continuously want to use the bin bash shell, what can I do to, whenever I want to use it, I'll use it, and then Once I'm done with my job, I come out of that container shell, but it does not get killed like here. As it get called, as the container got killed, I don't want it to kill. Okay, so that is where the detached mode comes into picture. It is similar to letting a job run in the background. If we run an image with dash D option, container starts up and runs in background. That means you start up the container and could still use the console for other commands. But what if you want to know if the container is running fine, right? We would want to see logs. We want to see if I'm letting run something in background, I want to understand if it is actually running or not. So and that can be checked by logs. So we have a very good command of docker log f and then container ID. Okay, so this is going to come handy if you want to check when we bring up some container in detached mode and it is running fine in backend, and I still want to check if it is running fine and it is actually up or not. We can use this docker log dash f container ID command, and I'll put the container. Right now there is no docker container which is up and running, so I cannot check right now, but in few seconds we'll be using this docker logs as well. So that's the concept of detached mode, and the opposite of detached mode is foreground mode, which is the default mode when we don't use the dash D option, which is this. This is a foreground mode. The console we used to execute a Docker run here will be attached to standard input output and error, meaning your console here is now attached to the containers process, right? So we have actually entered the container shell. So it is running, we are in the terminal, we have entered the container and we will be working with the container. And once we are done, we exit it, and the container is down, is dead. It's killed now. So let's try to use Docker exec, but before that, let's try to run. We need to bring some container active in foreground mode, in backend, in detached mode, so that it is up and running, so that we can use the exec command. um, in further let's try to bring Debian OS. Okay, so we brought Debian OS, another variant of Linux shell, and it is, if you go to Docker PS, we see it is the Debian image is up and running fine. I mean, right now you didn't you it quickly came up because I already have the image pulled, because of which it didn't go to Docker Hub. It directly it directly brought the container up using the local repository image of Debian, and that's the reason you see here this directly came up really quick. So now, as I said, the Debian container is up and running fine. Now we'll be using Docker exec, because I want to enter that Debian container shell, and I want to execute some commands. So I'll do this name. And one more thing, I used here dash dash name. This is another parameter that we can use, dash dash name format with whatever name you want to give to your container. So in here, when I did names earlier, you might be seeing in for other containers, it's silly spends or something like that, which is like default value, which where default name, that random names which Docker provides. But if I want to give my own name to the container, I can use this format and give my own name to the container. Now um, I'm trying to enter this bin bash. Okay, so now I have entered. You see 793, I've entered the 793. So it was up and running fine in the backend. I used exec to enter this bash shell. Now I can, do whatever I want. I can, anything that I want, and then I'll exit, but the container will still the container will still stay active. Isn't good? That's really cool that you can the container is still active. You did your you did all your uh, commands, you ran all your commands, and then you came out and the Docker is still active. So what happened here was this Docker exec, when you run Docker exec, this actually creates it tells container that they want that, but consider me. I am running this command. That means I'm asking my container, this container, to provide me a new instance of shell for bin bash. You understand? I'm asking every time I'll run this exit, it will provide me a new instance, right? For example, if I am setting echo, if I'm setting the value of other equals to 1, okay, and then I do other, so I'll have 1, right? I exited, then I again ran the same command, and if I do echo $1, there's no value, which means this is entirely a new shell that we am working on. This was an old shell, the no, old instance of shell. This is entirely a new instance of shell in which I am working right now. So that's what Docker does. It will go to the container, it will ask for a new instance of shell or anything, whichever form is. If it was Jenkins, it will provide a new session of Jenkins, and then you can execute whatever you want. So that's Docker exec. But there is another very important command which is Docker attach. Oh, and we need to exit from here. Docker attach, then container ID. Okay. So what is Docker attach? Now Docker attach attaches your terminal's standard input, output, and error to a running container. You understand? Running container using the container IDs, could be the ID or name. This allows us to view its ongoing output or to control it interactively, as though the commands were running directly in your terminal. Now let's quickly see it from an example. For example, I run docker run dash d dash name top demo ubuntu user bin top b. Okay, we already have top demo running in background, so we'll check. Okay, we'll see about docker container prune command in next session. But for now, let's see what exactly happened. Docker run dash d, we are running it in detached mode. We gave the name top demo to this container which is coming alive. We tried to find the image of Ubuntu. We found it in local repository. We created an instance of this image Ubuntu, and then we gave this command user bin top dash b, which means we are running continuously top command in the shell, which is the container shell, which is right now active in backend. If we want to see PS. So you see here, this is the Ubuntu image. This is the command that we ran, and it is created right now, and it is up. So it is right now currently running in backend. This top command is running in the instance of that image image shell. So if I do docker exec it, okay, and then I use this image 43e, okay, and then I, for example, enter the bin bash. I don't see the top command running here. If I even if I psef, if I see here, see, this is the command user top b which is running right now with root user, but I cannot see. And even if I exit from this terminal, my Ubuntu is active and running fine, which means it provided, when I ran docker exec, it provided me a new instance shell which is connected to the as this command was ran with user root, it will be always it will be shown to every instance that you create from this container. But I cannot access this command. What is the output of this command? I cannot manipulate, or I cannot do anything with what is happening with the main instance which is created in background. So what if I do docker attach f3e? You see, I'm actually right now inside the instance of that shell. I'm actually seeing what is happening in the main container shell. So that is there is the power of docker attach. We actually see that the attach command is displaying the output of the entry point uh, or command process. Now to come out of this window, if I press Control C, this sequence will send sig kill. It will send sig kill to the container, because of which now I don't see that Docker is running anymore. It is no more active and it is killed now, because we entered the main shell, the main instance of shell of that container, and we gave a sig kill because we wanted to come out of it. So we gave a signal of killing the container, and that's how we came out. But what if I want to enter this specific shell of Ubuntu? I wanted to enter this specific shell of Ubuntu, and I also wanted to see what is happening, and I also don't didn't wanted to kill this session. So what I would have done is, let's no, okay, I again created another instance of the image Ubuntu with name top demo, and we will again attach d4e. We have again entered, but now I don't want, I have seen, okay, that the top command is running fine, but I don't want to kill this container. So what I'll do is I'll press Control QP. Control Q. Okay, so I'm pressing Control QP, but it's not working fine. It is not working, and it's not bringing us out of the instance of the shell, and we have to forcefully again kill the shell, kill the container, because I haven't run this Ubuntu, this image with interactive mode. So the Control PQ, the container, if you want to detach a container and leave it running uh, by using attach command, we have to run the container first in interactive mode. So here I have to again docker container prune docker attach. No, we will need to bring again this instance. We'll bring it in interactive mode, and then we'll attack docker attach 7b999, and then when I press Control PQ, I've come out of the shell. The Docker is up and running fine, and we also saw what was happening in the main instance of the shell of that container. So the major difference between attach and exec is that attach allows you to use only one instance of the shell, the only instance of the shell which the container brought up when you ran the command. Whereas while you run an exec every time, it allows you to enter a new terminal, a new instance of shell, a new instance of container shell. So you can run exec n number of times. It will provide you a new instance of shell with the same image with the same image from which the container was created. Whereas for attach, you can just use one instance of shell. You can attach, you can go inside, you can do whatever you want in that specific container. And once you exit, and if you are giving Control C, or if you are doing exit, you will actually kill the container. But if you are running the container with interactive mode, and after that you attach it, if you attach it with this container, and then you want to come out of the container without killing the container, you have to press Control P Q. Okay, so it's going to be Control P plus Q. So you'll find all these commands in the video's description. In the video's description, I have attached this spreadsheet, the Excel sheet, and it has all the commands that we are running right now. So you can directly open that Excel sheet, copy the commands, and run it on your Docker environment. Thank you. We'll meet in the next session.